literally caused the attrition rate to blow up. I mean, half the organization left, and I had to pick up the pieces after that. What I learned from my marriage now is don't expect, a woman to do that for you. Like, find a way to have compatible dreams and big goals and dreams that you can both go for.
What are you getting after? What seeds are you planting? What are you overcoming? Think big. Think even bigger. Take some risks. God's got your back. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't ever have regrets in your life. Go fail. Go grow from those things. Live your life.
Your identity is not defined by your successes or your failures.
If you're not happy where you're at, you won't be happy where you're going. Choose to do the things that will make you the person you want to be, that will make you a better person next week and next year.
You're going to have to leave some things you're actually good at behind so that you can find what you're wired for, what you're born for.
Being a world-class entrepreneur is being in every area of life excellent.
It is the little things that are so easy not to do.
The best thing that you can do is assume the best in people.
I want people around the world to believe they can do something great with their life.
If I build the biggest business, but I destroy my physical body and I lose my health, I don't think that's success. While you're on the journey climbing to success, never forget the things that matter most.
This is Aaron Gendle. This is the Heart Healthy Hustle Show, and just had an amazing interview with Jonathan. Can't say enough about how amazing the experience has been for me to just be a part of the show, and just the great conversation we had, a lot of connection, and both love surfing. Had just an incredible time connecting with the audience and what I believe they'll get from listening to the episode.
Welcome back to 2020. We're here with a very special guest. Aaron Gendle is the host of his very own podcast, as well as being a best-selling author of a book called Conquest, 10 Simple Steps to Conquer Life and Leave a Lasting Legacy. The reason I resonated with Aaron is you definitely see why as we get into this interview. One of the main things is he's a family man, but he's also proactive. He's an entrepreneur. He's a hard worker, and he's really level-headed, stays grounded through it all somehow. So we'll get into that. Aaron, say what's up to the audience.
Hey, what's up, audience? Thanks so much, Jonathan, for having me on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
A little more of your background. Aaron founded Write a Book University, where he helps others tell their story and leave their legacy by writing a book. He also hosts the Daily Authors podcast, where he interviews brilliant new self-help authors, daily personal development, providing a platform for authors to share their stories and help others. Aaron has had a long career in tech and leadership, rising to the corporate executive ranks. He's overcome a chronic disease naturally, without medication, and even went on to finish the super difficult Ultra Beast Spartan race. He lives in the beautiful Emerald Coast of Florida, super jealous, with his wife and 4 kids. So Aaron, again, welcome to the show. Right on. So guys, right before the show, Aaron and myself were talking in the green room, and we were discussing how he's got a goal this year of being on over 100 podcasts. How's that quest going?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think I've lined up about 20 so far. So I'm starting the year off pretty well. Yeah, so if I can get some more momentum, I've got some cool tricks that have allowed me to do that. I can share those later if you want to talk about them. But yeah.
Cool. So we do start out the show with a favorite success quote or even a saying that maybe motivates you on the daily basis, a motto, and what it means to you. So share with us what you got.
This quote is something I used in my book that really drove me to start writing books and just doing big things. It's by Ben Franklin. He says, if you would not be forgotten as soon as you are dead and rotten, then either write something worth reading or do something worth writing about. And I like to sort of combine those two things, right? I like to say, instead of if you can do both of them, then that's the legacy I'm looking to leave and help others leave as well.
Jump into a little bit of your background. I want to hear, how old are you now?
I'm 38.
You're 38. I have so many questions. I'm 28, so you're a decade in advance of myself. Family man, 4 children. I'm curious to know your story. Where did it all start for you? Aaron, as a person, like, where were you when you were 18 years old? What did your life look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a California kid, actually. Grew up there and grew up surfing.
SoCal or North Cal?
I was born in Southern California, back up to North Cal, like Bay Area for a while, and then college, Southern California. So kind of all over.
Are you a Niners fan?
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
Of course you are.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
I'm interested to hear a brief story of how you started your business and the trials you had to overcome. In your bio, you've got information on how you were in the technology and leadership industry. You worked in corporate, you worked up the ranks. Curious to hear, do you still leverage a full-time job? Like what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I still do a bit of consulting because I've got to a point where I was running all of North America's professional services for a high-end consulting firm, leading big teams, growing teams, going into all kinds of different companies, helping them, very specialized in the data world. My background in college was mathematics and computer science. I kind of had this leadership quality, I think, when I was younger, I knew that I had, and just drew on that to rise up the ranks and take leadership very seriously, take my career very seriously. I went to get my master's degree, took some PhD courses even. So I was taking that route pretty seriously for a long time. I was very successful in that. And I think I just got
How old were you when you were doing your master's?
I think I got my master's when I was 27 or 8. Yeah. Yeah, I went to work for a bit, and then I went back to school. While I was working, I just did, a night weekend program. Yeah, I think that paid off for me. I think I learned the most in the consulting world because you get to see so many different companies, get to see the landscape of technologies they're using and the business processes and different people. And I got to speak to and present to so many executives. You have to put yourself in that spot enough times and you kind of get over. I remember joining my first job in the corporate world and just being nervous to talk to like a VP or an executive and them being in the same room, and I think just looking back now at doing what I do now and talking to amazing people like you do on your podcast, it makes me happy to kind of look back at how much I've been able to grow.
And the people at the top, not always, but 90% of the time, they're significantly kind. All around seem to be not that like better or more valuable, but like better people. Like they're genuinely, I find that people at the top are there for a reason and they treat even people who are nowhere near them so well. People who come on this show, I've had CEOs of companies come on the show and you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It blows my mind because like you think like, oh, they're going to be so cocky. They have like so many they have a New York Times bestselling book, and it's like the opposite. They got there because of their attitude. It was so humble, usually. Not always, but it seems to be the case.
I've had a similar experience, majority of the time, and you're always going to run into the outcast here and there that really rubs you the wrong way or, kind of got there by putting the gun to people's heads. But at the end of the day, I think people like that, like you said, treat people the right way, and they get there because of that.
At the top level, but I know that there are, I was watching a movie, I think, and there was like a middle level or somebody working up the ranks, right, in some company, I don't remember what it was, and it was the CEO or maybe it was his mentor, I really don't remember the context, I wish I did for the sake of this story, but he told the guy, you're absolutely a rock star basically in your abilities, however, you'll never get to the top level with the way you treat people because people just don't like you. And I was so blown away by that because I personally don't struggle with intentionally being nasty towards people, but some people genuinely are ruthless and they want nothing more than to stomp on everyone else's faces to climb to where they want to proclaim their lordship over everything. And they're never going to get to the top with that attitude, which is something you end up learning the hard way. Maybe you become a middle level. When people just don't like you, you cannot get to the top and at least not last there in a healthy manner. That was from a movie or something. I forget what it was, but he told the guy that. I was like, man, that's a fair point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen that firsthand. I mean, I've seen people take charge. The individual that I took leadership over before that was running everything in the company I was at before I, went off on my own. He literally caused the attrition rate to blow up. I mean, half the organization left and I had to pick up the pieces after that. And he had good leadership skills. He just didn't know how to treat people.
It's present and important on my mind because I took a corporate job last year and I've been working full time ever since. And what an opportunity. Wow. Like I really enjoy it. I love it. When I say present and important, I'm just saying that for the sake of like, I'm learning what corporate means, like what it is, how to talk, the way it works. So I was this entrepreneur, like greeting everybody with this huge smile. I still do, but there's certain things that I had no clue that are corporate specific and only exist within that bubble and in that realm of corporate America. And I'm learning it, and I'm grateful for the learning experience. It's really growing me a lot. And I will say, still working that as well as all of my entrepreneurial stuff simultaneously has been quite the challenge. So I would love to delve into your transition from working with C-suite executives in your corporate career and then transitioning into more of the entrepreneurial side of things. How old were you when you did that? What did that transition look like for you to make the leap?
Yeah, it's actually been off and on, and I've delved into a lot of that even while I was working. So I invested in properties, and I have rental properties and commercial properties. And so I've kind of dabbled in it while using the money that I made and investing in other places like that. I actually moved my family or at least it was just my wife at the time, and found out about 8 weeks before we were pregnant, but convinced our employers at the time to allow us to work remotely. So we moved from Iowa, middle of the country, literally spent the summer fixing it up in Airstream, and jetted across back to Southern California so I could surf in my lunch breaks, and parked it in Huntington Beach across from, the ocean there.
So you were living in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we
anyone who doesn't know what an Airstream is, that's like a really nice, how would you define it? A mobile home?
Yeah, just kind of a camper. And it was like I think it was like a 64. It was about a 26 foot.
The silver ones?
Yeah, the silver guy. It was in really good shape on the outside, but we had to do a lot on the inside. We kind of just made it our own. We made like these beds that retracted down, and we went all out with it. So it was pretty fun. Cool. Yeah, and I think I say that to lead into some of the other entrepreneur stuff I did, where when we were there, we actually started a surf-inspired fitness gym. And you might have seen some of this on Shark Tank, but it was a company that had it was called the Surf Set board, but it was a board basically that sits on Bosu balls that you'd balance on and do your workouts on. So it was pretty cool, lots of fun. We got to meet the owners of that company and got really close. They were in New York, so they had tons of publicity because when they got on Shark Tank, one of the sharks invested in them, and then they were able to really expand. And we had to be on MTV and go to Hollywood down there, and got into a lot of TV shows because of the press and all that. So it was a lot of fun.
We got to slow down a little bit here. So you're saying that you guys were doing the camper thing, surfing, and you were consulting how were you surviving? Did you make a runway when you left? Oh, no, I'm sorry. You said you were working remotely. First, how did you convince your employers both of you and your wife, to allow that? What did it look like?
For me, it came down to I did such a good job for them that they couldn't afford not to lose me. So I just said, hey, either let me work remote or I'm quitting. So that worked.
That's negotiation at its finest, folks. You create yourself as a linchpin.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, and I'll tell you, I've worked 100% remote ever since.
Wow.
And that to me is, there's some benefits, don't get me wrong, to going into an office and just interacting. I think there are a lot of benefits there. I think the freedom you get to have, and especially if you're in that place where you are trying to break out, I think that's what it's allowed me to do, right? I was able to literally do a few hours of work, and I was so productive in that time frame that then I could go and run my gym and run fitness classes and build a business with all my extra time, right? And so I highly recommend trying to get to that place. And I think I did this even before I read the Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek.
Right.
And he's a big advocate of that approach as well. You got to free up time to then give yourself the time to push towards what you really want to do.
I remember in that book, there was an entire section about how to talk to your employer about going remote. And in today's day and age, I mean, there are advantages, as you mentioned, to being present in an office, being surrounded by your peers that are doing the exact same work. So there are advantages to that. However, with modern technology, Slack, messaging, Outlook, everything is almost, Zoom. You can in a split second, you can do a video call through the messaging app that's free. Well, even Slack has a built-in phone call with a video camera that's in every laptop now, and you just can click that and call your coworker on the spot. I mean,
it's amazing.
Bluetooth headsets, it's unreal.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot more accepted, I guess. To me, great, because I think then you start to base people's work on results instead of just punch in and punch out time, right? It's like, all right, what did you actually meet the project deadline, or did you did you do even more than what was expected, especially compared to your peers? And if you're a high performer or trying to be, it makes it a lot easier for you to stand out, because in all my experience in the corporate world, it's pretty easy to spot high performers, and there's not a lot of them. So if you can be one of those, you're going to be invaluable to the company, just like I was when I was able to just convince my boss to say yes. And you're going to be in a great place to push towards whatever you want to do with the rest of your time.
Going back to your move to the Windstream, was it?
Yeah, the Airstream. Yeah,
The Airstream. You said you were starting a surf gym. Is that right?
We decided to start the gym and got some inspiration from some gyms we saw in Iowa, but wanted to do it more California style. And I just been a big surfer for a while. Yeah, so started that and grew a membership. Eventually, we sold the business. Just had our child that I mentioned as we were traveling back to California, and then my wife was pregnant with the second, and a lot of her family were all in the Midwest, and my family was pretty scattered across California and didn't have as much. Well, we thought at the time we felt like we wanted a little more support. So it led us back to Iowa again, before now where I live in Florida. Fun times, had a lot of good times definitely in California. I got in a lot of great surf sessions and did that all through college too. So it's got a special place in my heart. I don't get in as many of those surf sessions today, but I was out this last weekend, so that was fun.
This is unreal. So even just your bio, but as we're talking, we are cut from the exact same cloth, Aaron. It's really actually is quite coincidental, awesome, I suppose. I've always had an affinity for surfing. I really enjoy it. I'm not good yet. I can stand up on the White Rapids, so I'm still learning. How awesome. First and foremost, what are some hot spots to go to if you're like trying to surf like a maximum like a 6-foot tube in like California? Do those exist, and where so?
Yeah, well, like I said, I hung out a ton. I went to college down in Long Beach and Orange County. And so, yeah, I mean, there's so many great spots down there. Obviously, Huntington Beach alone you got maybe 1 week of non-surfable waves all year. Wow. Otherwise, there's some kind of wave breaking. And if it's not breaking there, you can head down to Newport. And Newport's more of that shortboard, like you said, what were you saying, 6'2"? But yeah, if you're riding that shortboard, Newport, I've seen 10-foot tube rides there, man, and ridden them. So pretty epic spot. And then you can keep going, right? Keep going south and north. From there, you can go up to Ventura or Santa Barbara. And then down south, there's different point breaks, and you can go to San Onofre. I didn't hang out as much in San Diego, didn't venture that far south usually, but yeah, just amazing spots down there, man.
Hey, shout out. I've got to check. San Diego is on my top 5 spots to go to visit because it's just beautiful year round. I just met somebody from there 2 days ago, and she was telling me all about how year round, she was born and raised there, and I think she says like 75 and sunny almost every single day.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Huntington's the same way, in Orange County there. It's just unreal. It's such good weather.
So I went and took a trip this was 2017, and I took a trip to Cocoa Beach, Florida. Have you been out there?
No, I'm kind of a newbie out to Florida. I've only lived here for about a year and a half now. So I hung around the Gulf, which isn't as good as for surf. So I'm definitely planning some trips to the East Coast.
Nice. I went out to Cocoa Beach, Florida. It was pretty good. The waves, there weren't really any real surfable waves when I was there, but I got a lesson it was through a local surf shop called School of Surf. So if you're ever in Cocoa Beach, shout out School of Surf. And the person I forget her name, but she actually competed against Bethany Hamilton.
Oh, nice.
The Ranjan there is like one of the, I don't know what you'd call it, like one of the top Ranjan stores, like the really big ones with all the statues out front, like the huge things and stuff. And I think they even had a Bethany Hamilton poster, which is, if anyone listening, Bethany Hamilton is the girl who got her arm bit off by a shark when she was 13 surfing in Hawaii. And she's just absolute beast. She still surfs. But
yeah, actually, it's part of the different opportunities we got. My wife was able to do a fitness session with Bethany Hamilton there in Santa Monica. Yep.
That's so cool. I mean, it makes sense. I think surfing is a small world, and it seems really tight-knit. I actually did an episode, speaking of surfing, a couple weeks back on Carissa Moore. Are you familiar with her? I believe she just won the World Surf Championship.
Okay. I was going to say, yeah.
Surf League. She had this really inspiring video. Red Bull put it out. It was an amazing episode. If you haven't heard that, guys, go listen to it. basically about just being patient for the dream as you're living through your life and waiting for that win, waiting for that cathartic release of like, I did it. Like, finally, I'm here. Okay, now what's next? If you can think back to when you're going through like maybe even your early 20s, you're a really driven guy. So I don't know how long you were in a phase where things were really uncertain. You just had to overcome a lot. You're establishing your values, learning what you want to do with your life, what you like doing, navigating your relationship. What did that look like in that time of your life?
Yeah, so I might have, in today's world, maybe have gotten married young. I don't know if you call it young, but I got married at 26.
That's fairly average, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like people are getting married maybe older now, but I don't keep up. A lot of my friends are all married. So I met a girl when I was in Southern California, and I don't know, just having been in college for so long, kind of get to know a bit more about what you do and don't like. And she was from the Midwest, and so it was different. She was different. And yeah, we just stayed connected. She was out there for grad school, and I didn't even know a lot of people that were going to graduate school. We connected there, and I think one of the best things that happened for us is we went quite a while without having kids. We went about 4 years without 5 years without having kids.
Why?
Part of it was actually we struggled to when we wanted to, but I think we did have some intention behind wanting to spend more time with each other, like to get to know each other. And looking back, I mean, while we dated for a couple of years before, man, I didn't really know her as well as I thought I did. Now being married for like 13 years. Yeah, it's crazy, man. But yeah, we had a lot of good times. We lived in San Francisco for a while, so we got to experience that. We lived, like I said, in Southern California. We got to experience that. I do regret not having actually done even more. It's probably one of my bigger regrets before we had kids, because when you do, it just becomes that much more challenging to arrange things, sitters. And even when I alluded moving back to Iowa to be closer to family, what I found is, and what I think mindset now I have, and what entrepreneurs especially should have, is you got to make it happen, because no one else is going to make it happen for you, So I think that's true with your kids. And if you want to go like on a date, don't rely on your parents, don't rely on your aunts and uncles. Make it happen. Find a sitter. We even hired an au pair, like that came from overseas to live with us, just to have more time with each other. And yeah, sometimes maybe you feel like you're spending a little more than you should, but I think to get to the next level, sometimes that's what it takes as well.
Yeah, I was just at a sales training seminar, and I was part of the kickoff event at our company I work for, and they brought a guy in who was talking all about how you got to, you can outsource so much of life, like grocery shopping, dry cleaning, whatever. Like you can use TaskRabbit, you can hire someone off of Thumbtack.com to come and fix your plumbing. Like there's no reason, unless you really are good with tools and you don't have any other revenue generating activities you could be participating in, when you outsource what you can.
Yeah, cleaning, that's a big point of contention.
Are you just saying that because you really don't like cleaning?
I don't really like cleaning. I mean, who likes cleaning, man?
I'm weird. I actually enjoy it because it's
really?
Like, yeah, well, it's not like the process is, I hate wasting time on it, but I like the end result, and I like knowing that I'm mature enough to actually make sure things are clean in my domain. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, I did this. Okay. But then I say that, right? And then it's like clean to me might not be clean to someone else. Like I'm not good at dusting. That's one thing I definitely, I definitely sleep on that. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think any of the stuff that we can outsource, I think the way I look at it is if I enjoy doing it, like if I actually want to spend my time doing it, that's a totally different story than just outsourcing because you can.
Right.
So if you want to spend the time doing it, man, go for it. Like some people love mowing their lawn. Like I could take it or leave it. Right. So I outsource that, or like my cleaning, like my wife and I, it saves us from actually getting into arguments because neither one of us want to, clean the toilet, that kind of stuff. Right. So if it saves you, that headache or stress, and I think women nowadays too, they're very independent. They have goals and dreams. They're like anybody else, and they're not just there to pick up after us men. So they, if you can, what I learned from my marriage now is don't expect, a woman to do that for you. Like find a way to have compatible dreams and big goals and dreams that you can both go for and make it possible for both of you to do that together.
I've been a part of quite a few different groups it seems that the most successful relationships are ones where the two separate individuals come together with zero expectations. But to avert delving too far into relationships, because this is not a relationships podcast, I could definitely go down that track and people would love it, I think. But I really want to jump back into your story, because the area where you left off talking about selling the surfing gym business, and then kind of going from there, like what age were you at that time, and what was next for your story?
Yeah, so I sold the gym 6 years ago. Yep, 6 years ago. And, there was a lot going on at that time. And this leads me into what I do now, really, this whole year right after I sold the gym. So we decided to do that. We decided, hey, we're going to move back cross country to Iowa. At the same time, my wife's pregnant with our second child. And when we get back, we have all these things happen. One, where we had gotten into an apartment that we were living in temporarily just because we were getting settled back in, but had started the process to build a custom home. And at that point, I decided I would try the corporate world again, and I found a job. And so all these things kind of led me to have a ton of stress in my life, right? If you can imagine, those are pretty big events, having a kid, moving, new job, building a house.
Yeah, that's a lot going on at once.
Yeah, that was literally happening all at the same time. And so as part of that, I, super healthy when I was running the gym. I was literally like in the best shape of my life, and surfing all the time, working out like twice a day. It was, just very healthy from that perspective. But then during this process, I hadn't done a lot in my self-development path to really prepare my mindset for some of these big things that started coming up, some of these big events in my life that I feel really led me to getting sick. And I think the stress was a big contributor. And while, I mentioned getting sick, I was diagnosed shortly after my second child was born with a disease called Crohn's, which is an incurable bowel disease. It can be pretty debilitating. Some people it's mild, some people it can cause death. And so before I got diagnosed, though, I started getting symptoms, and I went on for a run one day and got some symptoms that I knew weren't right. I kind of let them go on for a month. I was pretty scared because I was like, this isn't normal, but I didn't want to go to the doctor. I finally did. They just told me, hey, you got some inflammation somewhere. I was always been this way. And maybe it's because I grew up like in this traditional homeschooling background, like basically where I had to do everything myself and learn stuff myself. And it helped me through college. And even at this point, I was like, hey, I need to figure out what is going on with me. So, obviously we're in that age where we've got so much information, was able to figure out, sort of self-diagnose myself with irritable bowel disease of some kind. There's a couple different versions, but it basically said, hey, Aaron, you've got something really wrong, and it made me really reflect on what I was doing with my life. And after I sold the gym, I really stopped working out. I stopped eating as well. And then I obviously had all these stressors in my life that I wasn't managing well. And the doctors will actually say they don't know the know the cause of this disease. I literally, about a month or two before I got my first symptoms, I was so stressed that I was telling myself, Aaron, I hope you don't give yourself a stomach illness. I mean, it's just crazy because it happened, It's just kind of wild how that then led me to this path of trying to get well. I did so along the way by finding certain doctors, like one doctor in particular called, his name is Dr. Hyman, Dr. Mark Hyman. I highly recommend him for anybody who might have this kind of thing.
He was actually co-author on the Daniel Plan. I've seen him speak in Ohio. He's great.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to get him on my show as well. He's helped me out a lot. And I just dug into some online forums as well, and using a combination of what Dr. Hyman recommended. Basically, I went on this 10-day detox and eliminated most of my foods, drank like vegetable broth. Then as part of Dr. Hyman's regimen, he recommends this paleo vegan diet. He calls a pagan diet. It's like a blend between the two. But a big part of that is actually consuming 75% of your diet consisting of fruits and vegetables. And that was the part I was having a really difficult time with when I started to get off this detox. I was like, how am I going to do this? And then I read some forums that talked about juicing. They basically said, hey, you're giving your stomach a rest, a time to heal itself, and then just overloading with all this nutrition, right? So I was able to do that. I basically combined what I learned from Dr. Hyman and juicing. I went this 30-day juice cleanse and then just started blending after that and slowly started introducing stuff back into my diet that was just healthy. By the time I saw my gastroenterologist after I'd gotten the diagnosis, literally less than 3 months after I've gotten my first symptoms, I was totally symptom-free. Never took any medication, and that's been over 5 years now, and I've been like 99% symptom-free from that point on.
Wow. So you mentioned personal development, you mentioned you did a juice cleanse, but what were the lifestyle changes that you adopted consistently to maintain that?
Yeah, so from a food perspective and health perspective, really just started to leverage that pagan diet and just kind of stayed on that. And I don't stay on that 100% now full time, but that's the diet I tried to prescribe to, and I still do a lot of blending and juicing, taking ginger shots and juicing broccoli and those kinds of just high nutritional value vegetables. So the other part of the diet is kind of, or the other part of what had to happen, I believe, because I mentioned all these stressors, and while eating well is going to help there, I really had to change my mindset. I started to get more into self-development, and I realized the steps that I took along the way there, I really had to. I wrote about them basically in my book as part of the 10 steps because they became critical, and I wasn't even realizing I was doing them at the time, but just the idea of believing that it was possible for this thing to go away without medicine. And I was really scared at the time to take any of that because what they prescribe is immune suppressants and so if you get an infection of another kind, it really amplifies your chance of it being serious. And so, yeah, I had to do some self-discovery. I had to understand what I was really passionate about. And at the time, it was all about getting well for my family, like to just be able to be there for them and support them and provide for them, right? But I think, just believing that it was possible. I guess I say all this to say that I had to just shift a lot of the way I was thinking, along with some other things, like very practical things, something simple like taking a hot bath at night, getting in the sauna, and those types of things really helped me to get over the overwhelm that I was experiencing. And just taking a step back and not doing so much at the time also helped me to relieve that sense of overwhelm, right?
So it sounds like you were burning out. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then what was your aha moment? Like, what was it that, what I guess was when you were on that run and you realized something was off?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I got my first symptoms, which, I mean, I end up eventually every night waking up in a pool of sweat because I had flu-like symptoms daily, So that was,
wow.
That was how debilitating it was for me, and it was, at that point I was like, hey, obviously I can't live my life like this and, go work and provide for my family. I just didn't have the energy. I felt just sick every single day. So yeah, pretty quick way to say, hey, what's going on here and what have I done to myself, essentially? And I tried to take ownership, right, instead of, blame anybody else, because I really felt like I did it to myself. And I think that's a good place to be, right? When you feel like you've taken the steps to get yourself there, well, you can probably take certain steps to get yourself out of that place. And I decided to take that approach, and that's what I did. I just went into discovery mode and figured it out.
Well, I really acknowledge you for that, brother. That's a big deal. A lot of people never really get to that point. They actually just decide, okay, medication it is. That's what I have to do cut the symptoms back. The holistic route is our bodies are holistic. So, I mean, it makes sense. And there are diseases where medication is necessary. I'm not an ignoramus. I understand that. But there are solutions out there. Yeah, Dr. Hyman's got quite a few different books and a lot of information. Have you taken the, I assume you were diagnosed with Crohn's. Did they retract that diagnosis? Like what happened?
Yeah, so getting to that part, well, basically after going through the process, there was some scheduling delay, but by the time I walked into the GI's office, he just scheduled a checkpoint for me, and I'm assuming that would have been to help prescribe some drugs if I was still feeling sick. I mean, he was the one who said I had the disease, and so I went in there and said, "Hey, man, I feel great. I feel amazing. I don't have any more symptoms." And he kind of was surprised. He gave me a little bit more information about the disease, and then he just said, "Hey, whatever you're doing, keep it up." They ran the same inflammation tests that they had run before when I was just getting checked initially, and they had no inflammation was detected, and so that's where it left off. And he's like, "Hey, if you need anything, let me know, but otherwise, keep going." Which I was actually surprised, because I would have figured he would have been like, "Hey, well, you may want to just get on medication," because now when I go to I've had to switch a little bit. But I go to the regular general doctor's office and I tell them, I fill in the box and say I have this. And they're like, "Hey, so what drugs are you on?" Like it's basically, they recommend most of the time you be on drugs the rest of your life.
I had a friend in college who had it, and he took, cases of medication and pills every single day to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's insane.
Can you share? This is a question I began asking because, when you're doing it, your second child was on the way. You had a house being built, a custom home, correct? And you were around 32? Would you say around that time?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're basically stressed to the gills, and you ended up getting diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And all that being said, I'm wondering, how do you now, with your understanding of where you're at now, being 38, how do you balance the notion that life is short, live in the present, with preparing for the future?
Yeah, so good question. So I think this disease really helped me clarify the shortness of it, like in a split instant. And some people listening may have already experienced this, but yeah, to be diagnosed with an incurable disease and it'll wake you up pretty quick, I think, right? It woke me up, and I realized, hey, people die from this thing, and it could be a heck of a lot worse. But yeah, I need to, I needed to make sure my family knew what had happened, and if by any chance any of them have ever experienced it again, or experienced it in their life, they would have what I did to help overcome it. So that's really what led me down the entrepreneur path that I'm down now. That I know I didn't fully vet out that last question, and that's why I wrote the book I did, and that's why I help others write their books, because I believe everybody has that story. Everybody wants to leave something behind, a legacy, and I really believe books are just a tremendous way to do that. There's so much that people have to offer. They may not even realize it. I think a lot of people I've talked to, they say, "Hey, who am I to write a book?" Or they have a lot of self-doubt, and they don't realize, even if you're in your 20s, your 30s, like there's no age, I think, that you haven't experienced something, or even potentially want to experience something that you can write about. You can do what we're doing right now, right? You can start to interview people that are doing maybe something you're aspiring to do. So any of that information, and all of it's going to be so helpful for the people now and that come behind us, right? And that's ultimately what I'm all about, is helping people leave their legacy. And I'm trying to write more books, trying to get my message out there to help as many people as I can, because I believe at the end of our day, what do we got to show for it? And if you haven't put yourself out there, I've talked to authors that share stories with me of, say their father, who was just into music, and they loved this about their dad. He sang and played the guitar, and just was such a big part of their childhood. And then when he passed away, they couldn't find any of his music. It wasn't written down. It wasn't recorded. And he was gone,
Wow.
you know?
Yeah, he wasn't there anymore. Yeah, that, man. I will say this, guys, that reminds me. I started doing an annual, in the place that I'm living, I record a year-end video, and it usually ends up just being myself talking to my future self from my present status. Like I go over my current everything, like the place I'm living, the measurements of the room. I record it on a video so I can show myself the room. So when I look back, I'll remember like, wow, look how far I've come. I looked at one from 2017 and it reminded me, hey, I'd like to do that every single year. Like what an amazing idea to be able to look back on this as my future self, talking to my future self from my younger version of myself and watch those videos from when I was in a 10 by 11 foot room that wasn't a legal bedroom so I could live independently and get on my feet after college. And having that on video, I remember I was talking for like 17 minutes and I started crying and I was like tapping on my chest and I was like, John, I know it's going to get better from here. I just have so much faith. Like, I know it's going to get so much better. Like, I'm so pumped. Like, and it's so great, like looking back on that video because it's true, but it's hard to have that perspective when you're living in that moment. It's just being patient. So
awesome, man. Love it.
Yeah, definitely check that idea out, guys. It's a really cool thing. If you want to do it on your cell phone and then upload it to like a Google Drive account, or if it doesn't matter, like you can keep these somewhere stored and just access those files. I recommend personally doing it onto a SD card or a memory card and then uploading that into a hard file onto your PC and then like an external hard drive as well, just so you have redundancy. I want to delve into the Heart Healthy Hustle round. So Aaron, are you ready?
Absolutely.
First category is heart. What activity do you use present day to care for and strengthen your internal character?
I use podcasting actually, and
that's awesome.
I connect with just amazing people every day.
Health. How do you maintain your physical health and avoid burning out?
I get in the gym every single day.
What kind of workouts?
I actually have been a big beach body fan for a while, so I do like the insanity workouts and those kinds of things.
Shaun T, yeah.
Shaun T,
and
yeah.
What was the guy who did P90X? Tony Evans or Hustle? What's your main motivation for doing what you do?
My main motivation is to just live an exciting life and help others live it as well and leave their legacy.
What's your why behind all of it?
I think my big why is very much tied towards my family. They're pretty much everything to me. So I want to be an inspiration to them and also just show them that big things are possible and do big things together, exciting, fun things.
I love that. I know a lot of people listening right now can resonate with that as I can myself. I'm wondering if you have any insight into how, what's your present situation looking like? Are you still working full-time remotely as well, or are you completely entrepreneurial? Like, what's your situation now?
Yeah, I'm doing a bit of both. I'm still in the consulting world, just doing some light data consulting, and then I do all of what I'm doing now with my university, helping people write books, coaching, podcasting, and just having fun trying to get on some stages this year as well.
That's fantastic. I have no doubt that you will. Really appreciate you sharing everything you did with us today, Aaron. And then on top of that, I'm curious to know, what do you think is holding back most proactive young professionals or just proactive individuals from fully thriving and actually realizing their full potential?
I think a couple things. One is one of the biggest mistakes I made, I believe, and had I been more insightful or just had more mentors or reached for this type of information, I would have invested in myself way more. And whether that's, it doesn't have to cost money, great podcasts like yours and books and just really invest in yourself. As Warren Buffett says, the greatest investment you can make is in yourself. You don't know what you don't know. And I think that's a big part of excites me, and to keep interviewing people, to keep reading, to keep learning. The other part of it, I think, and what I see happen with many entrepreneurs and just authors or people who want to be authors, since I interview so many, is fear. And I think that keeps us back from so much in life. All I think what we want in life, rests on the other side of fear, right? And whether that's, speaking on a big stage or starting a podcast or writing a book or starting that business that you don't know how you're going to get the money for, I think all of it rests on the other side of fear. And I think believing that it's possible. And I think the best way I've really learned how to overcome fear is just stepping into it. And it might be baby steps. I remember doing my very first podcast and I was like so nervous, and after doing dozens and dozens now, it's so much more easy and it's just so much more lighthearted. And I think that's the same thing that happens to us with a lot of things. We step into it, and as soon as we do it, then it starts to get easier and easier. I equate it to when I went skydiving. I actually remember the whole way up to getting strapped in, and even before jumping out of the plane, I was like freaked out. And then literally as soon as I get out of the plane, like I feel this huge sense of relief. And that's the kind of the picture I try to paint for myself and for anybody else who wants to listen. I think that's how fear is. As soon as you jump out of that plane, then it becomes that much more easy.
Man. I'm laughing because my fear is like manifesting right now because I have to jump out of a plane this year. I haven't done it yet.
Oh, nice.
And I know some people listening have been thinking about it. Have you done it a couple times or did you just stick with the one time?
No, I did it once. I mean, I would totally go do it again. Yeah.
There are 4 kids involved now. I guess that's part of the consideration, I guess.
That's right? What life insurance policies are for, I guess.
Do you have any strange habits we should know about? Man, that's amazing.
Strange habits. My wife says I do this.
Oh, no, I was just joking in terms of if an insurance person was asking you that before they give you a policy, life insurance.
Oh, got it. Gotcha. No. Yeah, I wouldn't admit to them if I did, right?
Yeah, I'm actually going skydiving for the 3rd time this month. You mentioned books quite a few times. Share with us your 3 most influential books and why.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have a list, feel free to riff. I know people appreciate it.
Let's see. So I mentioned Tim Ferriss earlier, so I got to drop that one. 4 Hour Workweek was probably one of the very first self-help books that I picked up that really, just got me thinking differently about what's possible. And so that was the start of my journey, and definitely plan to have Tim Ferriss on my podcast here someday.
Yeah, man, for sure.
And I think another individual that's really influenced me a lot over the last couple of years is Grant Cardone. So he's got many books, Be Obsessed to Be Average, 10X Rule. Those are a couple of great books that I've listened to just so many times. And what's great about his books that I really love is just actually listening to them, and just a big believer in listening to books and podcasts. And I love books that the author actually does the reading. So those are a couple of good picks if you guys want to pick those up. And then Tony Robbins has been pretty influential as well. So, The Awakening Giant Within, books like that.
Yeah, a lot of these are really train you to think differently and show you that a lot more is possible perhaps than what you've previously considered as achievable.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I guess that's the theme for sure.
The 4 Hour Workweek too, that's actually an old book at this point, which is weird to say.
Yeah.
What is it, at least 10 years old, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's
sort of a classic, I guess, now.
Yeah, it's one of the original, but that book is amazing. That really does show you how to think differently. And I think he even says in the book, he doesn't work 4 hours. He works 400, but take.
Yeah.
I'm curious too. You mentioned you were into real estate a bit. Are you still involved in that? And what did that process look like for you for real estate investing?
Yeah, I have, at one point I had up to 4 properties. I did sell a couple, but yeah, I have a couple, a few properties now still. And for one of my properties, it's pretty cool. It's a mixed use property, so I have commercial spaces. So you might consider it multiple units. And then it's also a mixed residence. It's a residence that I do Airbnb, and that's been very successful for me to do that. And then I have another house if I ever want to visit there and be in it. But yeah, I just sort of dove into it. I read The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was another book to throw out there, back in the day, and got inspired to want to invest in properties. And, with it overlapped a bit with more the Airbnb and rental stuff. So we started to do that with a lot of our properties and make pretty good money by renting out our home and just allowing it to be more flexibly used for our own use or for other people to stay. And we would do that between other houses. Actually, we'd had, a big house that we lived in, and then we'd go to one of our other rental properties and stay there for a little bit. And we might stay at a month's time in different homes. And it started to get a little more hectic as our kids needed a little more stability, but it was fun. It was fun. We learned a lot. Right now, I've invested in land and things like that down here, but overall, I've kept it pretty static the last few years, just keeping what I have.
Are your properties close together, or do you have like ones in California? Your Airbnb you mentioned a couple times.
Yeah, those are in Iowa. Those properties are in Iowa, and then I live in Florida. So yeah, we're able to. Yeah, I think there's another thing I've seen people do where they've have homes and like, hey, I don't want to let this go, or I better sell it because it might get overrun. And I think that's just it's a fear. It's kind of an irrational fear, and of course things can always happen. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you got to take some risk at some point, right? And even when I mentioned the story of moving to California in my Airstream, we had a beautiful white picket house in Iowa. We just said, hey, we're going to let someone rent that thing out, And the same thing when we moved from Iowa down to Florida, we had several properties, and we're just like, hey, we'll make it work. And we actually do Airbnb. We have, I can call a guy up at any moment and he'll go fix whatever needs to get fixed or broken. And I've got people to let tenants in the house, in the property, or it's all automated for the residence part with keypads. And so I figured out ways to basically automate all the cleaning, all the
headaches. Yeah.
All the headaches. And I literally send one email when some new guest is coming in. And actually that email is already automated too, but then I send like a personal one just to give it a little extra, and
a little pizzazz.
Yep. That's all I do.
That's really cool. Yeah, I always appreciate personal messages. I've stayed in quite a few different Airbnbs, and it seems to be that when you make that personal touch, it's almost insurance because it helps to show like, hey, like I really own this house, and like please treat it well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm real,
Yeah, we used to think too we had to, in the beginning, we're like, no, we need to be there to greet people. And after time, we're like, no, we don't need to do any of that. And actually, I think people prefer just to walk in and, like they would their hotel room, essentially. Right?
Totally. It almost feels coercive when the owner's there and like, hey, here's how you do this and that. Either that or they're so janky that they have to show you how to do things. Either way, it's just awkward. What kind of keypad are you able to reset the codes on those remotely?
Yeah, it's all Wi-Fi based.
Wow.
Yep.
Do you know the name of the keypads you use?
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Never expected me to ask you that question.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't know about that. I thought the tip of my tongue, but I use an Akobe, which there's a lot of thermostats now. Like that's another thing you can do with Wi-Fi, right? And change the settings and make sure people aren't, that they're working. You'll actually get alerts that they're not working ahead of time and things like that. So that's been helpful too.
That's really cool. Were you meticulous when you first started, or did you just take the leap in terms of finding your first investment property?
Yeah, we mostly invested in our own homes, and we actually would move after a little bit of buying the house and move into something else, and just being able to, at the time, I think, and still probably, buying an investment home generally takes more down. So the money we had at the time allowed you to even put down, as little as 5% or 3.5% even, right? In some of the instances. So that allowed us to get multiple properties as long as our, debt to income ratio was in good shape. So that's really what helped us start to build that part of our, business.
Love it. What were your resources that you looked into when you first got into it?
You know what? No, we just dove into it. We didn't, other than reading like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just kind of being inspired that it was possible to do. And we just said, hey, we knew that certain properties, what they could rent for in the area. And we just tried to buy buy homes that we thought would be profitable from a month-to-month standpoint. And yeah, it worked out. It's something you should try. I mean, I think, yeah, there's just so much opportunity. I think that's what you got to realize. And hey, if worst thing that can happen, right?
Going back to what you said earlier about fear, it's like after you do it, you realize it really wasn't anything to be afraid of. But not only that, it's that same feeling of, and I'm sure I felt this with the podcast for one thing. You mentioned that initial fear, right, when you first started.
Yeah.
And then you realize it's literally it's nice. It's therapeutic for yourself. You learn. It grows personal development, etc. Connections, networking. But on top of that, it really isn't about me. And then it becomes something bigger than yourself. But then on top of that, you realize by talking to the people who are doing things so much bigger that you're thinking so small. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's so much more possibility and so much more that can be achieved and that can be done in life when you're surrounding yourself with people who are showing you like, hey, like, yeah, why not? Like, yeah, you can do that, times that by 10, multiply it. Don't just add 10, multiply it. And it blows my mind, but it also is true. And I've said this to multiple people with podcasts. Things that we're afraid to do in a personal branding level, especially, are not a big deal. After you do it, you realize there's more than a dime a dozen worth of other people who have already done it. It's not a big deal because people, I want to start a podcast. I just don't know about the money. And it's just the rumination, the nonstop ruminating, and then it never happens.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not afraid, but the procrastination sets in. They just uncertainty, this, that, and the third. And really all it would have taken is opening up voice memos, which is built into your iPhone. You can download a voice app on your Android phone and start recording. That's it. And now there's Anchor, and you can upload it. It's like not a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
And the barriers to entry become lower and lower. You have SoundCloud, Spotify. I mean, SoundCloud has put on so many artists that are now, popping off. Spotify, same thing. And it blows my mind, but we have to embrace these lower barriers to entry and realize, hey, like this is the new wave. This is what's happening. And speaking of technology, do you have any favorite tech or software recommendations that you use for help your life stay organized? Do you use anything?
Yeah, I use Trello a lot and come from that highly technical background. A lot of software developments is done with agile development methodologies, not to get too technical, but Trello is a good way to sort of work. Trello is Trello.
Project management software?
Yeah, it allows you to basically create swim lanes or like columns of what you're doing now. So you might, for example, have, hey, these are things. In a traditional sense, you might say things to do, right? And then so they're in your queue. And then as you start working on them, you move them into another swim that says in progress. And then you might have another that says blocked, and you might move it into there because somehow you're not able to progress with it. And then finally, maybe something that just says done. Within each task, you can create descriptions of what you're trying to do and tag it and all this organization that you can add around it. You can add teams. So that's a really cool tool. A lot of companies use products like that.
In the conclusion of the show, we love to do the park bench paradigm. If you could go back in time to maybe your mid-20s, let's say, you're sitting in California overlooking some part of a beach somewhere. You're sitting on a park bench, for example, and your present day, Aaron, can walk up and put your arm around your own shoulder at that point in your life, looking out over the ocean. What would you tell younger Aaron and why?
Yeah, I love that question. I would say, Aaron, take life a little easier. Be easier on yourself. Have fun and go big. Don't hold back. Dream about your biggest dream and then dream even bigger. And imagine yourself already having accomplished that thing, and you'll make it happen.
What do you think your 10-year future self would say to you today, Aaron?
He would look back and say, "Why didn't you dream big enough? You're still not doing it. You still haven't done it, or you're not doing it yet, and you can be so much more and affect and influence so many more people and just believe that you can do it.
It's powerful stuff, man. Before we go, how can we connect with you, support your show, find your book after this? How do we do that following up on this episode?
A couple of places I hang out. Find me at Aaron Gendle, Gendle. And otherwise, I'm hanging out a lot at dailyauthors.com, pushing out episodes with authors every single day. And at my university, writeabookuniversity.com, helping aspiring authors tell their stories and leave their legacy.
Awesome. And then your Instagram and social media handles are at Aaron Gendle. So is that AARONGENDELE?
Just about. Aaron, you had right. And then Gendle is GENDLE.
GENDLE. Okay. Got to get a TikTok, man.
Yeah, not TikTok. I'm not on that yet. But
oh, man, yeah.
I do have some automation there. I should have mentioned Social Bee is another one for y'all. That'll create evergreen content so you can repost old posts. And yeah, it's been an awesome tool. Helped me save me a lot of time.
Really, really cool. Aaron, thank you again for coming on the show and sharing everything you did. I know this episode is going to be a fan favorite. There's zero doubt in my mind. So thank you.
Hey, thanks so much, Jonathan. It's been awesome.
What's up, beautiful people? It is after 1 in the morning as I record this right now, post-show. I wanted to run past you a couple things. I have joined the Amazon Influencer Program. So now I can provide you with a storefront of products available on Amazon. If you go to this link, you can see things that I use, like what's in my gym bag, what is the water bottle that I use, what lid do I use for that water bottle, and these are all real things, by the way. What are some supplements that I like taking, that I recommend, and that I use every single day of my life to stay and maintain a heart-healthy hustle in my life. Listed that storefront in the links below. It's going to be the second link in the description. So if you're listening on Spotify, it's going to be in the description in the notes. If you're listening on Apple, it's going to be in the notes. And if you're listening on YouTube, check the description box. My storefront is now active. I will be ongoingly updating it as well. I will earn a small commission if you purchase something after clicking that link, even if it's not from my store. So if you want to support the show and you're about to buy a $500 dishwasher from Amazon, click the link first, then I would forever be grateful to you. Another way you can take immediate action is actually through signing up for an Audible trial. If you've thought about it in the past and you're like, I don't really want to pay for a subscription base, you're not alone. I actually don't pay for one myself, but I have for periods of time. And what I can say is through being an affiliate with Audible, I'm able to provide you with a free audiobook just for trying it. The link for that is going to be in the description as well. It's audibletrial.com/HHH. So that's audibletrial.com/HHH. If you wanted to pick up a book from today's episode, you can do so through that link and get it for free just for trying it. So yeah, guys, that's about it for now. Keep enjoying the show. I freaking love it, guys. So much love. Keep being awesome. Be blessed. And I will see you in the next episode.